against him. Wisconsin voters flocked to the polls. Polls opened across Wisconsin at 7 a.m. and I believe they close at 8 o'clock in Wisconsin. That would be Central Time. The State Government Accountability Board, which oversees elections, estimates that 56.5% of eligible voters are at 2.5 million will turn out. This is lower than the 57.8 eligible voters who showed up in 2012. Not much. 57.8. We'll call it 58%, and 2 percentage points there, and we'll see. In the Senate, GOP has 17-15 lead, with a vacancy in one GOP-leaning district. The Democrats hope to take that chamber over. So we'll see as how that goes. We'll look at a little bit of the flavor from the voters here. This is we won't mess with that. We'll go down to Chicago and see how the voters are turning out in Chicago. We'll just go to Chicago Tribune because it's quicker to get to there. Close race for governor at the top of the ballot there. There they have the incumbent running there in state of Illinois. Local polling places at 6 a.m. Were opened in Chicago and suburban Cook County from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. 242,000 voters cast early ballots in person in the city. This is in Cook County there. And also the number of mail-in ballots in the city and county jumped from 49,000 4 years ago to 66,000 this time around. A lot of those going on. And from the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners, we did 56% 4 years ago. Early voting is up 33% this year. So the votes are up in many, many places. What does this mean? Some voting problems. Some polling stations complicated because as many as 200 election judges didn't show up. Only in Chicago could this happen. They were probably having coffee and donuts somewhere. And other little problems out in the city of Chicago. We'll quickly go out to Denver as we kind of move around here and seeing what is up and where it is up. This is the Denver Post. Now in Denver, the ballots are mail-in election. Computer issues dog voter sites as push begins. And we'll quickly look at this article here. Statewide registration election system used at every voting center will be taken offline for about 20 minutes at 2 p.m. in an attempt to fix technical problems. That would be 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And see what all eyes Tuesday on the state of Colorado and the outcome, of course, of that Senate race there. As of noon on Monday, 591,001 Republicans had voted, while 210 Democrats had cast their ballot, according to the Secretary of State's office. Of the 1,464,947 votes cast, registered Republicans make up 40.34%. And then they mention a few of the counties here. And of course, evidently, residents can also drop off ballots was out of service in Ohio County. I don't know where that is. And some of the SOE software, which works in 1,400 jurisdictions. So they were having problems in that particular county. In Denver, the city and county are gearing up for 75% turnout in Denver. The city has issued 362,000 ballots as of Saturday. 137,368 have been returned and verified. That's 38% of those sent out. Another 16,000 have been returned undeliverable by the post office. In Boulder County, on Tuesday morning, with 108,000, 535 returned out of 188,000 mailed out. That is 58%. Traffic at drive-off centers in Boulder, Louisville, and Longview were busy there. The University of Colorado's campus. In Jefferson County, we talked about Jefferson County on last night's program. For the Senate race there between Udall and Gardner, out of 335,000 mail-out ballots, more than 222,000 have voted, and that is 63%. That was as of noon today, including 16,000 delivered in person. In Latimer County, where just over 204,000 ballots, including some replacements, were mailed, 118,000 have been returned by noon. That is 58%. So a lot of voters are voting in this election, no doubt about it. That is from the Rocky Mountain State, the Mile High State. That was Jesse Paul and Tremander Chung of the Denver Post. And see if we can snatch anything else out of Denver. I guess that will do it for Denver, and it will do it for us. On to the final debate between Michelle Nunn and David Perdue. This is Boston Red on the 4th of November, Election Day. It's about 4:16, going on about 4:20. You'll get this probably a little after 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Good day.
Here's your moderator, Justin Farmer.
Good morning and welcome to this live Channel 2 Action News debate for U.S. Senate. This is big in Georgia and for the balance of power in the United States Senate. This is also the final debate before Tuesday's election. We also want to welcome those of you watching our live stream at WSBTV.com and around the nation today on C-SPAN. And please remember, tweet us your questions using the hashtag #YourVoteOn2. Let's meet our candidates who are trying to earn your vote to replace retiring Senator Saxby Chambliss. We determined podium position by drawing. First, the Republican candidate, David Perdue. Next, the Democratic candidate, Michelle Nunn. And Libertarian candidate, Amanda Swafford. We thank you all for being with us this morning. To question the candidates today, I am joined by our panel. Candace Presley is the Assistant Program Director for WSB Radio. Atlanta Journal-Constitution Washington correspondent Daniel Malloy, and Channel 2 political reporter Lori Geary. Candidates, you'll have 1 minute for a response, 45 seconds for rebuttal at my discretion, and these are loose guidelines today as certain conversations may warrant more time, and I'm going to try very hard to get some clarity on those campaign ads. First question is mine, and Mr. Perdue and Ms. Nunn, neither of you has ever held public office. Ms. Swafford, you have, but it was with Flowery Branch City Council. No disrespect to that position, but clearly you are outside the Beltway politicians, or hope to soon be politicians. So the question is this: what have you done, each of you, starting with Mr. Perdue, what have you done in your life to prepare you for one of the most powerful jobs in U.S. government?
Well, thank you, Justin. Thank you, panel. It's good to be here this morning. You know, as I go around this state, the number one issue that I hear from hardworking Georgians is they're really concerned about their jobs. If they have one, they're worried about keeping it. If they don't have one, they're worried about. In my career, I've spent my entire career creating tens of thousands of jobs and working in the economy around the world to try to help provide individuals the opportunity to provide for their families. I believe in the United States Senate with only about 10 people who have any business experience. I think it's time that we add a little depth to that dialogue about how to create jobs. I just believe that in this environment, the people of Georgia want somebody to go fight for them and not fight for this president.
If I may follow with that, what would you do specifically when you say create jobs? We all want jobs. What would you do as a U.S. Senator? What's the smartest thing you could do early in your tenure?
Well, for the last last year and a half, we've been talking about the three things that I would do. Number one, we have to have serious tax reform. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. We have the only repatriation tax in the world. Secondly, though, and maybe most important, is that we need to really pull back on our regulators. This president has created the fourth arm of government, and I believe that they're really shutting down job creation and job growth right now. And the third is we need to finally unlock our energy resources to get this economy going again.
Ms. Nunn, what would you do as a senator? What have you done in your life to prepare you to be a U.S. Senator?
Great. Well, thank you. And thanks to the WSB team for the opportunity to be here. And Amanda and David, thank you again. I have spent my entire life trying to make a difference, serving people, creating an organization from a few dozen people and taking it to an organization that last year mobilized 4 million volunteers. We started Hands on Atlanta with a couple $1,000s, and we ended up with an organization that had a $30 million budget. So I know what it means to work together across differences. I worked for President George H.W. Bush's Points of Light organization for 7 years. I have a demonstrated commitment to bipartisanship. I want to break the gridlock in Washington, and I know that the way to do that is by putting our country first, above party and above partisan divides, and actually getting things done that matter in people's lives. And so that's the experience that I bring. I think it is different from David's, who, by his own account, has spent the majority of his career outsourcing jobs, and who throughout the campaign has talked about really perpetuating the gridlock in Washington.
Ms. Wofford.
Well, as someone that has held elective office in local government, you know, I've stood up. I have a principled record for voting for less government, knowing absolutely that re-election was on the line. I've stood up for small businesses. I've called for reduction in our business license fees. I gave our citizens a lot of opportunity to have choices in the way the government services was to be delivered. I've done a lot of things in local government, and I've stayed involved. Even after losing re-election on the council, I stayed involved with the council. I stayed engaged. I'm taking personal responsibility to step up and run for United States Senate to give Georgians a real choice for their choice for your next United States Senator. Instead of just complaining and not doing a lot of anything, I'm staying engaged and being responsible to give Georgians a choice in the United States Senate.
All right, let's get to our panelist questions. Lori?
Well, no doubt we're going to get to the issues, but I want to first ask you, this has been one of the nastiest races that we've covered, and I want to ask you, there have been some really outrageous attacks against all of you and things that have been said about all of you, so I want to get your answer to this. Mr. Perdue, you have been attacked on that you discriminate against women. Ms. Nunn, you've been linked to terrorism, and I know, Ms. Swofford, you've been asked to step out of the race because you've been called selfish. So I want to get, and we'll start with Ms. Nunn, what is the most egregious attack you've heard about you? And here's your chance to set the record straight with voters.
Great, thank you. The most egregious attack is clearly the attack that David made, saying that President George H.W. Bush's Points of Light organization was funneling money to terrorists. It has been called the worst ad of the entire campaign, not in Georgia, but in the United States, by Time Magazine, by USA Today, by the Washington Post. Neil Bush said that it was shameful and despicable and that it should be taken down. It was really an affront, not just to me, but really to the millions of volunteers that were a part of building an organization that is really a legacy of President George H.W. Bush and of, again, the work of so many people.